Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Two Wise Girls podcast. A reminder to like, subscribe, do all the things. We talk about Percy Jackson, we talk about other works of fiction, trauma-related stuff, and today we wanted to talk a little bit about online culture some more. Fandom culture's kind of like been having quite the time recently.
When we covered Gabbie Hanna, I titled one of our videos like how Gabbie Hanna changed the internet. And in that video we kind of talk about how Gabbie like litigating somebody else's rape on Twitter and YouTube and stuff changed the internet in the way that people feel like they can ask victims these sort of questions, or that they can like force them to like have to retell the story and stuff. Because it's one of those things that when somebody like that kind of pushes consent to a new awful place, you can't like take it back and act like it didn't happen. She set like new, almost like standards or like conversations that people even think you're allowed to have online. You can never fix that. She can't fix that. She can't, like, even if she did care, which she doesn't, to be clear, but even if she did one day like get hit in the head by something that made her realize how horrible she's being, she can't like fix that. She can't take that back ever. And so in the same way with stan culture is something that made people feel like they just like deserve to know anything and everything. And there's like no concepts of like privacy or even just people asking like, do I actually deserve to know this? And the answer would be no. And so places like TMZ and like I said before, like TMZ is especially, but like TMZ and Perez Hilton were like the big ones. But there's also other websites. I know like the Shade Room is one, another one like that. The Des Moines website is another one like that, or I don't know what it is, if it's a website or what, but whatever that thing is. All those places are like places where people just feel like they just should get to know everything, and they they don't. You don't, like I've said that before, that you don't deserve to know anything and everything just because you want to know. Like I understand the idea of like wanting to know something, but it's also like a thing of if the only way that you can find out the information that you want to know is through like stalking behaviors, then maybe you shouldn't do it. Like we were talking about the whole situation with Walker Scobell being given death threats and stuff. Like there's some kids on Percy Jackson Twitter that were, one of them was trying to defend after that story came out, and people started being like, what have we been doing all this time, and like attacking him about random things. Why did those people push this stuff so hard about him and stuff? And they started like rethinking all these things that they've been doing. There's this one person that was trying to still justify wanting to know if he was like MAGA or not, and saying like, oh, I don't want to support somebody that's like that. And I just responded to them and be like, the only way that you guys could figure out, which you still couldn't really, because like the thing of like there's just to like state this, you will never know. Like we've said this before, but you will never know because it's a public profile. They can just lie to you. A lot of public figures do lie for this sort of stuff all the time. And then there's also the thing of that even if they're not MAGA, doesn't mean that they're a good person. Like Eric Swalwell is being outed right now for being a fucking predator for like at least 10 years. He's not MAGA. He was a left-leaning politician that people wanted to vote for the governor of your state. And that doesn't matter. He was a predator. Like that's hello. Like it doesn't matter. Finding out like if somebody is MAGA or not, especially when they're a teenager, it doesn't really prove anything that they're a good or a bad person, because you don't know who anybody is. They can still be a bad person and vote for like it just becomes like a crazy thing. But the thing I said to that person was like, if the only way that you can investigate this is by finding his friends in his tiny little hometown and stalking them and deciding based on his friends like following list that means that he also agrees with them politically, and you can figure out what they even agree with politically. If that's the only way that you could possibly figure something like that out is by stalking teenage boys that are just normal people that just happen to be friends with someone that became famous later on in life, then you don't deserve to know.
Exactly.
You don't deserve to know. If that's the only way to find this information out, then you don't deserve to know. And I understand, like, wanting to know, and that's a whole bigger, like, morality discussion about how people weaponize that so much during, like, stan culture stuff, of this idea of, like, they're a bad person, but I'm a good person. But, like, that you can never be sure one way or another. But
Yeah.
still, like, I understand wanting to know, but if that's, like, the only way for you to find out, something should go off in your mind to tell you, like, should I be doing this right now? I made a giant list, and I just am going to go through each, like, situation just to, like, give as many examples as possible of all the times that people have done things like this. I'm sure that there are things that I've forgotten, because there's so many. So if you can think of one that I don't list, like, list it below, because there's so many. Because I just need to make this point, because it's horrendous to think that something horrible happens to you, that especially in a situation where the people that do it to you is, like, a famous somehow person. The idea that all of that would then become known on the internet, and that people would do all these things to you purely because of what somebody else did to you that hurt you. It just is like, they are the people that you should leave alone the most. But for whatever reason, it's the opposite. And because people just want to know, they feel like they have a right to just find anything out, and that they don't consider how it would feel if it happened to them. And, like, people don't like it when you dox people on like TikTok over, stupid things. And it's like, imagine if the internet was doxing you because you were just abused by somebody or whatever it is. Okay, so the first one I thought of was, there's been a couple times that influencers have had babies, have had kids, and they're the kind, and influencers have figured out, especially lately, that people don't like it anymore when you share, like, when you show your kids online, especially when there's, like, a literal baby. And so some influencers who used to show their kids stopped showing them, or they just had new children, like, just had a baby, they won't show their face, and they won't tell them, like, their actual name. They'll give them, like, a nickname name when they're just, like, mentioning them in videos or whatever, when they're, like, telling a story. And people get so angry about that, and also just weird. Like, Allison Cooch is somebody, her husband, Isaac Rochelle, used to be in the NFL. They don't show their daughter, who's now, I think, 2, and they don't show her face on any of their videos or on pictures or anything like that. And so when she turned 1, they put out a video where they showed her face in this one video, and people made videos reacting to it, like, crying because they got to see this 1-year-old child's face one time. And it was like, the things that they were saying were, like, so inappropriate, of, like, thinking, like, that, I don't know, that she, like, trusted them with this, or that they, like, wanted to see this child's face so badly that they don't know. And it's just, like, a 1-year-old little baby, like an infant, that and it's just things, like, a couple times things like that have happened. And it's just weird because people try to find that information out. Like, another example of that sort of similar is, there was an influencer, Aspen Ovard, that somebody somehow figured out that her and her husband were getting a divorce, and they posted about it on one of the, like, gossip websites or whatever, and it became this big story. On the day of her dad's funeral, her dad had died, and nobody knew about that. And the day of her dad's funeral or something, was when the story broke about her and her husband getting divorced. And she said, like, I didn't think anybody would even notice. Like, so they had to be like watching or something somehow, the like filings and stuff, because there's no like alert that goes out when you file something like that. And so she thought that she could just file it and then go to her dad's funeral and deal with all of that stuff and then deal with it. And then, and then know that it was filed and they could like continue the process. She didn't think that people would see it and find out like that and make it be like this big thing. And then she had to like tell people that like her dad died. And I think they figured out that her dad died by finding it somehow and posting it online too. And it was just like, I would feel bad if I found out that somebody like that, just a public figure, that their parent died. Like, if they haven't said anything, you shouldn't share it with the internet, because I would never want somebody to do that to me or anybody else that I care about. Oh, okay. This was one that bothered me last year. The Ruby Frankie, her kids. They did a documentary themselves last year. I forget whatever channel it was on, but it was one that they specifically...
It was Hulu, I think.
There's so many of them that it was hard to tell which one was which, but I know it probably was Hulu, but I know that they did one where they were behind wanting to do it. Like, they were the ones that wanted to do it. They were more involved in like the final product of the documentary and stuff, as opposed to the other ones that were made more against their will than anything else. And the only clip from the documentary I saw was the oldest kids, the boy and the girl that are the oldest kids that are like late teens, early 20s. They said that they did the documentary because they were upset that the internet kept talking about their dad and kept talking about their dad being like just as bad as their mom. And so they did an entire documentary to try to get people to stop doing that. And after the documentary happened, people still did that.
Of course.
And the thing is that, like, if you think that their dad didn't do the right thing or whatever, that's fine. You're a stranger, though. And so your opinion, I can't stress enough, does not matter.
Right.
Your opinion does not matter to these children. That is their father. That is the only parent they have left who is not an absolute monster from hell. And so, especially after the torture that her and Jody put those children through, if they want their dad in their life and they want to keep that relationship how it is and like try to make it better, you don't get to tell them that they're wrong. And especially if they tell you that they don't like how you're talking about their dad and will you please stop, you should shut up. These children were tortured, like legitimately tortured, especially the two that were found when they, like, one of them ran to a neighbor's house, which is how the whole story broke in the first place. They were literally tortured. Like, they were so sunburned that their skin was coming off of them. And so do you really have the right, after they went through that as children, to be like, oh, well, I think their dad is a bad person, so I'm going to keep talking about that anyway?
Go to any TikTok on the entire page and about our family in the past couple of years or even recently. If you go to the comments and click the top comment, guess what it is on every single video? It's his dad should be in prison. Or it's, why is his dad not being held accountable for this?
Now, he's not wrong. I took a minute, went through a few of my videos and screenshot the number one comment. This one says, I still believe he escaped accountability for his part in the situation. I'm glad to see the kids healing and doing well. This is the number one comment on another of my videos. Kevin is guilty and got away with it. I'm surprised the kids speak with him. And another top comment, he's just as guilty and I will die on that hill.
I'm sick of seeing these comments, dude. Okay, let me just make it clear. When you have a therapist that tells you to do something, you usually trust them to do it. This therapist was in our life for 5 years. Whatever she says goes.
When Ruby Franke and her family therapist, Jody Hildebrandt, were arrested, it had been 1 year since Kevin Franke and Chad Franke had seen their family.
When she said, hey, I don't think you and your mom are in a good relationship, or you and your wife are in a good relationship, you should separate. Now, is that the right thing to do? No, absolutely not. But when you've trusted this woman for your whole life, especially since she's extremely rich and successful, you think, okay, I'm going to trust you.
So Jody Hildebrandt wanted Kevin out of the picture. Then she decided she also wanted Chad out of the picture. Now, allegedly, the two of them moved into an apartment together, but Jody didn't like this, and so she told Chad he needed to move out and not even be near his own father.
They felt like they shouldn't have to do that. Talking about those stories, however they talked about it in that documentary, because I'm never watching any of those, is so triggering. It would like make you go down a really not nice path for a while, just like talking about those things. And they put themselves through that again just to try to get you to leave their family alone. And like the oldest daughter has said that she's not posting anything on social media ever again. She got married and posted that she got married and said, this is it. This is all you're ever going to hear from me ever again. But it's like they especially were put on the internet against their will. If they ask you to do something, you should just do it. You shouldn't be like, well, I'm going to talk about it anyway because I think that Kevin Franke is a bad person. I don't care. I don't care. Just stop. Just stop talking for the love of God. The next one is Emilie Kiser. She is the influencer whose 3-year-old son died by drowning in a really, really sad story. There's
that was the one where people were speculating before it was even confirmed, right?
Yes, and that's what I was going to say. There's multiple things where people were speculating that something happened because her and the other family members and close friends and stuff that she has, none of them were posting anything at all suddenly, when usually people like that, usually influencers post at least one new thing a day to keep up with, content and stuff. All of them suddenly didn't post anything for many days in a row. Somebody found somehow an article where they live that in the newspaper that was talking about that a child died at I think they even said in the article an influencer's house or something like that, but they didn't name who it was or anything like that. And so then people were speculating about if it was Emily's kid or one of her friends' kids or her sister's kids or something. And so the first thing was that they felt pressured to tell people which kid it was, which is just so evil. I'm sorry, it's evil to try to pressure an influencer to tell you if their 3-year-old son is dead or not. My niece is 3 years old. My entire life would stop. If she died in an accident, my entire family would not know. We would not function anymore. I wouldn't be able to do anything.
Yeah.
I think I would just go to my sister's house and lay on the floor next to her all the time. We would be fighting so hard to not be dead ourselves if something like that happened to her. I cannot imagine the internet bothering us and being we deserve to know what's going on because we care about this kid.
Pieces about whether or not you should have had a fence on your pool when it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, and then also people were trying to put things together about oh, I think because of this picture and this video and this that it's her house. You don't deserve to know these things. If the only thing, I understand that it would bother you not to know, but if all the most uncomfortable thing you have in a situation where a child drowned in his own backyard is that you don't know which kid it is yet, you're doing really good and you need to leave the families involved alone. Oh my God. And then the other thing too with her was that she had to sue the local police department in her area to block people from getting access to the police report.
Yeah.
Because the police were doing an investigation about her husband because he was the one that was home at the time when this happened. They ended up charging him with some sort of neglect, and like people were like judging him, and it's like, oh my god, shut the fuck up. Like, his child is dead. That's like more than any sort of lesson he could possibly ever learn from you, an asshole on the internet. But it's also just, it's so depressing. I remember I saw that and I was so depressed that she has to do that to not only block people, but also like places like TMZ from getting access to the investigations. One of those websites somehow did, because that's how people found out that the police were like charged her husband with something. But it was just like, she had to make like a statement about it, and had to make a statement to tell people to like leave her husband alone, which should be obvious.
Yeah.
To leave him alone. Like, are you kidding me? You don't need to say anything when their child is dead. You really, like, how many times do I have to say that? But legitimately, that story, I was just like, this is like, I don't even know what to say about that situation. I don't even know. I had no idea who that girl was.
Yeah.
Before all of a sudden I started seeing all these videos about it, and I felt so bad for all of these people. I think it's amazing that she's like come back and tried to keep making content after she was gone for a while, for like a year probably. But I think it's amazing that she's even still trying to do it after being treated like that by her audience, who say that they care about her. Like, she has to be doing it because it's something that she wants for herself. But when I saw that, I was like, I hope she never comes back, because that's just a horrible way to treat somebody.
I am very much grieving, and I'm very much going through a lot right now. Just want to say, like, you are seeing such a small sliver of my life right now. I'm not sharing my kids anymore. Therefore, I'm not sharing Teddy, and I'm not sharing Trig. I'm doing my best, and I'm showing a very small portion because I'm not ready to share other things. I'm not ready to talk about other things, and that is okay. Those are the things that I am unpacking in my therapy sessions and with professionals and with my family. Those are not things that I think I should be coming on the internet and unpacking with millions of people. Sometimes forget that because of social media, we've warped this perspective of people's lives, that we genuinely feel like we know them and like we know what their whole life looks like, when in reality we're seeing maybe like 5% of someone's life, and it's what they choose to share. So right now I'm choosing to share the days that I'm getting through. I truly just want to give the perspective that, like, unless you have lost someone and gone through grief, you will not understand what you would do or how you would act, because you just have never had to be in that position, and I hope you never have to be. I mean, everybody loses someone or something at some point in their lives, but losing a child is literally the worst pain, and I would not want anybody to go through it. For people to say, if this were me, I would just be crippled and I would be thinking about them all day and I wouldn't be able to continue on. Do you not think that everywhere I look in my house, I don't see my child? His photos are everywhere. His artwork is everywhere. I love that because he's my child and I never want to forget him. But I'm not showing that on camera. I'm not showing you all those things. I'm literally just trying to do anything to bring a little bit of joy to my life right now. So I don't know. I know I don't need to get on here and necessarily like defend myself, but literally could not be further from.
This one is one that I just thought of because it just shows like how conspiracy theory minded people get. The whole Justin Bieber, Hailey Bieber, Selena Gomez thing, that people are like weirdly obsessed with that because they don't know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally all it is. They don't know why Selena and Justin broke up. And so people are still obsessed with them and making up all these theories because they never said what happened.
Yeah.
That's literally all it is. They just don't know what happened and it's driving them insane. You don't need to know.
Yeah, like reading into literally everything that they possibly could of, oh, this song's about Selena, this song's about Justin. And, sometimes they are. Sometimes they are. But not everything has to be about your ex-boyfriend from when you were a teenager for the rest of your life.
No, and also if I was them, I would do crazy things just to make people go wild over it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would absolutely do that on purpose just to see people react to it because it's just like such a weird thing that they're like psychoanalyzing the smallest things about each other. I would act like a crazy person just to be like, well, if you're gonna like micromanage every single thing about my life, I might as well make it entertaining for you.
Pretty much.
Like I would totally do things like that. It's like, what else could I do about this situation? This is so weird. Okay. And then the next one is serious again. It's Zoe Laverne
Mm-hmm.
and her victim Connor. And so if you don't know what that is or who that is, Zoe Laverne was somebody that had a lot, like I forget the amount, like 10, 20 million followers, something like that, on TikTok in 2019, 2020. And we did a whole video about this because this was a situation I remember seeing in 2020 and it like generally scared me that I just tried not to think about it. But essentially her victim Connor was this like quite literal like 12-year-old baby. Like he was literally like 12 or 13. And she put him in all these like TikTok videos where she was like kissing him or she was talking about wanting to kiss him. And she described it as if she was in a relationship with him. It was very much like the whole Haley Beck situation, but even younger people. And even though she herself is like younger still, all of her like friends that she talked to were all her fans on Snapchat. There were all these like 12, 13-year-old kids. And absolutely like nothing has ever happened from that situation. Connor went to the police when he was a little bit older. I think he was like 13 or 14, being like a little bit older because he wasn't 12 anymore. And he went to the police to try to like, do something about it. And the police said they wanted to look at his phone to see if there was anything on it. And there were all these like pictures and videos of them on it that would have proved what he was saying. They said that they looked at the phone, there wasn't anything there, but he knew that they were lying because he knew that there were things on it. And so the police just like pretended like they were believing him. They just didn't believe him. And like she's just gotten away with that. There are other boys that she did similar things with around the same time and then afterwards too. And he's gone to the police a bunch of times and nothing's ever happened. But the part of this thing to talk about is that he was a 12-year-old boy and people found out like his name, where he went to school, his house, because she was living in like, she moved to his hometown for a while when this was going on. They like they like would ask questions to like his parents, to his friends, to his like other family members. And then to this day, people still like leave comments being like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you over this? And I'm like, you mean, why isn't he over this like influencer girl still having all these followers that got away with raping him? God, I wonder why he's not over it. What are you talking about? But there are people that say that stuff regularly to him because he'll, sometimes post videos when he gets frustrated by it, being like, what do you expect me to what do you mean? Am I over it? Like nothing's ever happened. I'm still trying to get something to happen. And it's just like crazy that people basically doxed him when he was in 7th grade, where he talked about how he had to like drop out of school and things like that because of all this attention and harassment and stuff, and just kind of disappeared from the internet for like 4 or 5 years and came back when he was graduating high school, even though that was 6 years later because he was so young when it was happening. But it's also just the crazy idea that there's like Zoe Laverne like fans that don't like him. And I'm like, what could you possibly not like him for? Or be like bothering him about anything at all? Because he keeps reminding you that she raped him. That's not his problem.
Yeah.
That's definitely hers. That's definitely not his. He's the last person actually that would have an issue with that, like that you should give him problems with. And it was just the idea that like he's being like victimized in front of your eyes every single day on TikTok, and your response is to dox his address and his high school or like his middle school, because he was not old enough to be in high school. That's an interesting thought pattern. I wonder why that happened.
Hi guys, I just want to come on here to make a quick little PSA, and I swear this is the last video that I'm making on this topic. I just wanted to address the screenshot that I put in my most recent video, how it says friends right here. A friend had sent me this screenshot. She has me blocked on TikTok, and I do not care to see any of her stuff. But it's really crazy to me because I don't understand what side of the story anybody needs to hear. You've had ample opportunity to come out and speak about what you've done and hold yourself accountable, yet you still fail to do that. Not to mention, your actions itself show that you're guilty for everything that I have accused you for. The fact that you have shut your comments off since I came out with my videos and still have yet to turn them back on, but let alone, there is so much video evidence of everything. Now, I'm not going to sit here and put it back in this video because I have videos up that show it. We don't need to do all that, but you know damn right well you're guilty for everything that I've accused you for. Also, I don't know what the hell you have to heal from, considering, like, Jesus Christ, this girl can't be real. I don't know what you have to heal from, considering you are the one that has made me have to result in going to therapy 5 years after the fact that I was in association with you. Like, I have no idea why you're posting online, whining and crying about you having to heal and no one hearing your side of the story, when morally you should just be grateful that you are not in prison.
The next one I mentioned was Gabbie Hanna, like I said before, litigating somebody else's rape on YouTube and Twitter. And then also making up rape allegations that never actually happened also.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jen Dent, so the person who she had her stands make the allegations against. Luckily they only found information for an old employer, if I'm remembering this correctly. They weren't able to find where she was currently employed, and so they weren't able to do the type of damage they wanted to do. But that kind of accusation on somebody with a nursing license could be very detrimental to their career.
Yeah, and it's also the thing that there was a comment by somebody on one of Fat Sojek's, is somebody that we like watching her videos about Gabbie. And she did a video talking about how Gabbie put her fans through this abuse and like gaslighting and extreme manipulation too. And somebody on the video left a comment saying that there was a girl that like believed Gabbie about this story, and which is why they were like sharing it, because why she was so serious about sharing it, because she legitimately believed that it was true. And and then, you know, got an extreme amount of harassment, as you can imagine, when she was like a teenage girl, and was already having like mental health problems, and then had to go to like a facility because she tried to kill herself, and was in there for a while before she got out. And the only thing Gabbie ever said to her during all of that was after she got out of the facility, she asked if she could mention that she tried to kill herself in a video when she was trying to prove in one of her videos in 2020, I think, that they're like, oh, my fans got affected by this stuff too. Look at this one story that I have, and just like edited out the part where she was the one that caused all of that she convinced this person that this story was real. And if you think that there's somebody actually sexually abusing children that works in healthcare, yeah, you would try to do anything to make people find out about it. And so that's evil to do, and it's especially evil to me that like adults were watching that happen at the time and didn't care that it was a teenage girl, and still harassed her to the point that she wanted to die. If somebody is doing that stuff and believes Gabbie, you need to like understand that that is a victim, that she is a victim of Gabbie. And even if she is saying mean things, it doesn't change the fact that she's a victim of this person that is using her for her own devices. You need to treat that person like you would anybody else who's a victim, even if they're annoying. Victims who are annoying also are victims. I don't know if people know that. Like, there isn't a morality test for us. We're also victims of things, even when that trauma and abuse makes us annoying to you, and we won't shut up on social media. That's still true. I still think it's wild how people talked about the teenage Gabbie Hanna fans back then, that they just like openly on YouTube would make all these videos being like, oh, I've been harassing this teenage girl for all these months. Isn't it funny how this teenage girl won't believe me? And I'm like, you mean because she's a teenager? And that Gabbie Hanna is gaslighting and manipulating them, and you can literally watch her do it. It's not like a funny like coincidence. Like the whole video that Jessie did where she read out those messages with the Deanna. In those messages, she was convincing Deanna that any text message or any tweet or anything you ever see that says that I did this thing are all fake. And so that's there. If you ever see anything like that, it has to be fake because I never actually did this. And so that's very obviously what she told her fans. She told them that anything that you find are things that people who don't like me made up to try to make it look like I did something that I never actually did. That's why they didn't care about attacking these people, because they thought those people were doing the thing that Gabbie was doing. But they didn't realize it because they were teenagers. And nobody sat there and like thought to talk to them about it and try to ask them these questions. They instead just like harass them. Okay. The next thing I brought up was the Unknown Caller documentary. About the mom that was sending her daughter all these crazy text messages and like death threats and was like sending them to her boyfriend and all these things that came out a couple months ago. Yeah. I wanted to bring that up because this really weird thing happened where everyone started harassing every single child that was in the documentary. Like they harassed the girl, like the daughter, for not figuring out that it was her mom sooner because...
And isn't she still on good terms with her mom and people were mad at her for that?
Basically, in the documentary, she was saying like, the thing that she was saying was like, at the end, she was basically saying like, I don't know that I could never talk to her again because she's my mom. But like but in interviews that she was doing when the documentary came out, she was talking about how now that she hasn't seen her mom and she's had like a much calmer life with her dad, she was not wanting to release. She hadn't seen her in a while and was like not wanting to see her anymore because her life was calmer. She realized when her mom wasn't in it anymore. Yeah. And so she was just like naturally figuring it out. Like everyone is in that phase at a certain point of thinking I can never just like never talk to them again because they're my mom or they're my dad or they're whoever. And so for some reason, her saying that in the documentary meant that people harassed her. And then they also harassed her boyfriend, and they also harassed the girl that was like the mom's patsy, whose parents are so stupid. Yeah. That's all I remember about. I never actually watched the documentary, but I saw so many like videos and stuff of people talking about it that I felt like I had.
Yeah.
The thing I took out of that documentary is that the girl that was like the fall guy for the mom for a long time because she was just like a bully at school sometimes and like being like a mean girl or whatever. Her dad was a police officer, I think, and it would like question her every single night about if she did it or not. And he did that for over a year. And I remember saying at the time, like, this is the literal reason why the cops are stupid and don't know what they're doing, because instead of being like, maybe I'm wrong about this, he instead interrogated his teenage daughter every single day for a year when he was wrong about that. And she was telling him the truth every single day for a year. She was telling him, I didn't do this. I'm not doing this. And instead of like being like, maybe it's somebody else, he was like, I'm just going to interrogate my daughter every single day. for an entire year, and which would be traumatic in and of itself. Instead of just like admitting that I was wrong. The people in that story that deserved anyone's vitriol, if you're going to give any to anybody, are the parents. You shouldn't anyway. But those parents deserved it because they were absolutely terrible parents for doing that to their daughter and acting like they can judge anybody else's parenting, honestly, on planet Earth. But for some reason, they're like people harassing these 3 different kids and then like crossing over different groups of which one was her. It was ridiculous. Like I saw so many people talking about it because all of them were getting so many harassing comments that they were like making videos asking people to stop. And like going private and all these crazy things. And I was just like, oh my God. And like, can we go back to the mom though? Oh, this one is serious. The Idaho 4 murder case. People, there was a couple people in that case that were in the house where it happened, but they survived because they heard something happening, but they were too scared to leave their room, which is a actual trauma response, is freezing.
Yeah.
And I have that one. And so people were giving those people, they were like harassing them because they didn't try to stop a maniacal murderer from killing their friends.
There's a chance Brian Kohlberger could be exonerated, and Dylan Mortensen and all of her sketchy friends are indeed the reason why. Sketchy because they have all been caught lying since the beginning, and the internet is not done talking about it until all the right people are behind bars.
It does sound as crazy as it is when I say that out loud. But they were generally doing that, and they also were trying to like solve the case, which is like a default setting for every big true crime case. But this one was especially bad because actually a woman that was pretending to be a tarot reader was, because you're not reading tarot if this is what you're doing with it, was doing these videos where she was accusing a professor at the college of being the one that did it. She did like thousands of videos about this woman, would not stop making them. People were warning her that she was going to get sued for defamation, and she just like kept doing it. And it's very hard to be found guilty of defamation. You have to prove that the person knowingly was lying about you. You have to prove that they knew that what they were saying wasn't true, but they were saying it anyway. Which is why it's so hard. And you also have to prove that you like lost money as like a route of them knowing that they're lying about you. That's why it's so hard to prove defamation. Yeah. She was found guilty of it like recently, a couple months ago, because she actually was. And it got a huge amount that she has to pay back that professor now, which is good, because she was accusing a completely innocent person that just was a professor at the college of murdering 4 college students.
Yeah.
On absolutely nothing. But yeah, people were like demanding the survivors to explain why they lived. Because I saw videos of people like defending them, and I was like, what? Like what?
They don't already have survivor's guilt.
Yeah, and like I'm scared of true crime because of these sort of things. But that's even like over the line of what it usually is in even the normal things they do in cases like that. That case, for whatever reason, became especially crazy. I think because it was so random. The thing that made us talk about this again, or made me want to talk about it again, was the Duggar case. That initially, back when everything happened with Josh the first time, where they figured out that he sexually abused his siblings, there also was a weird thing during that time where the sisters were pressured enough to go on Megyn Kelly and talk about what happened, because people, like, I remember back then that people wanted to know like who it was, or like how many he did it to, and they wanted to know which of the kids from the reality show it was, because I remember at the time being like, why? Or like, I don't think you should be asking this sort of question. But even back then. But then recently, the situation with Joe, so many people were speculating about who he abused, that the family that the victim is from had to like make an Instagram post and basically tell people that it was somebody in their family who is his wife's family. And so the only reason they would do that, or they did that, was because people were talking about it so much and like speculating so much that they felt like they had to.
People had done this whole like backwards math of like, in 2020 on the show, they were at this place at this time, and that matches with this description of it. And yeah, like you can kind of guess who it was, but people, and it was the same thing with like the Duggar sisters and Josh, of because we all know the ages, like they redact the names, but it's pretty easy to surmise who the, like, for example, 9-year-old is in this situation if you know the birth years and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just the whole idea that people like we mentioned in one of our videos about the Duggars that somebody left us a super long comment, and in the comment she was just saying like, oh, it's one of Kendra's family members that did it. Don't you know that? And I was like, why are you just like speculating something like that as if like the internet is just like sleuthing and figured it out? Like, I guess what I'm trying to prove while going through all of these instances is that people just like react the same way when people want to know if like an influencer couple broke up as when a child has been like raped by someone. They react the same. They do the same things to figure it out. Like Emilie Kiser's son is like drowns in a horrible tragedy, and people are using the pictures and videos that her and her family members posted to figure out which house it was from the picture that the police they put in like the newspaper in the town that they live in of which house they were at where a child died by drowning. That's like, they're reacting to that the same way that they would to find out if her and her husband broke up. And it's like, there needs to be a difference with how you guys react. Like the idea that like Reddit was trying to figure out which kid it was immediately. There's some people who make videos about the Duggars that I see their videos all the time on TikTok. There's one in particular that I like because she's very trauma informed, even though I don't follow her because seeing her videos all the time wouldn't be a good thing for me, but I still want to see enough of what she's saying. And the day that story came out, she was getting comments from people speculating about who it was, and she was telling them to stop. Like the day that it happened, almost every day for a couple weeks, I would see her admonishing somebody to stop. And they just like kept going to the point that Kendra's parents, like to look at that situation, Kendra's parents found out something happened. They went to the police like you're supposed to. They were living in a house that was owned by Joe and Kendra. When they went to the police and turned him in, they kicked them out of their house.
Yeah.
Like they started a GoFundMe for like a day that I'm sure the main Duggar parents forced them to take down, where they're being very vague on purpose and just trying to say like, we're going through a hard time right now. We don't have a place to stay. And can somebody help me? And like Joe is on the calls from prison laughing. Him and Kendra are like on the calls laughing about kicking them out of their house that they own and making them like be out on the street or like live somewhere else or not have a place to stay because they called the police because you sexually abused a child. And it's just, when that kind of stuff is going on, the internet needs to shut up. And I guess I will never understand, like the next thing I have to talk about is Haley Beck's victim being anonymity being gone like immediately. Like the day after that story happened, his name was out there, even if you're people like us that didn't want to. I still am like trying to make myself forget his name, even though I saw it on a video that I posted so that I don't remember. But even to the point now that like students from Haley Beck's school are like making TikTok videos being like, oh, Haley Beck was my teacher. And like telling stories about what it was like having her as a teacher. I saw somebody like a true crime channel, like almost like reacting to a TikTok video that was done by the girlfriend that the child had when this was going on. And the person that was like reacting to it was like comparing, saying that like his high school girlfriend was better looking than Haley. And I'm like,
the girlfriend of Haley Beck's alleged victim gave a story time on her TikTok about what happened, and I'm going to give you guys a recap. But first, I just want to say, look at her, and look at her. Like, she's gorgeous. Anyway, she said they started dating.
Do you usually ask victims if they find their rapist attractive?
Yeah, that's so gross.
Or do you only do that
gross.
when
And
it's a
also,
boy?
like, why are we comparing a full-grown adult to a teenager? That's so gross.
Yeah, like why are you acting like these relationships are the same?
Or that they're somehow competition to each other. That's so much wrong with that.
And it's like that. I understand why those teenage kids are doing this, because if anything, this is honest. If this situation wasn't so out of control in the way that it is, and especially so many people talking about it, not understanding the like severity of what she did, and like how that is like the worst, like gaslighting, manipulation, like grooming I've read, and I didn't read all the things that are out there, but the things I read was bad enough. And I know there's a lot of details that these kids are saying that I don't know, because I'm trying not to know. But the stuff that I did read from her, the things that she would say to him was so manipulative. And I will say that one of the videos I did see a couple seconds of was a girl that Haley was the high school women's or girls soccer coach. And she said that when she was the coach, everybody was always fighting. And I'm like, yeah, this is what people like this do for fun. And that's basically what she was saying, was that she would like talk badly about somebody, like, oh, this person said this about you, or this person is ugly, or this person said this, or this person said that, so that they were always like arguing with each other. And I'm like, yeah, that's what outrageously manipulative, abusive, predatory, grooming bastards do. They get off on the fact that they can control people's emotions. They like knowing that they can control people. That is terrifying. That is terrifying. This is what my dad did. My dad loved the fact that he could walk in to any situation and ruins everyone's time. Like his family stopped inviting him to anything when I was 16. I still don't know like what he said, but his family came to my grandmother's funeral, my mom's funeral, because they all knew her and everything and wanted to come. And he was in the car with them driving home. And he said something to them where my Aunt Judy, his sister, was just like, no, like, that's it. And she told him, like, when we get home, you're getting out of the car and we're never doing anything with you ever again after this. Like, and so it probably wasn't like a super bad thing in context of everything else he would say. It was just that whatever he said was just like, we're on the way home from your children's grandmother's funeral and you're still like making comments about whatever and trying to ruin everyone's time when you're already at a funeral. That they were just like, she was the one that was still trying to make things work with him. And so when she said she was done and we're not doing this anymore, then that was it. But that's what people like him are like. They like being able to control everyone's reactions. Like when our president made everybody freak out that they were going to bomb Iran and like ruin a civilization, I was like, he's not going to do it because he said that. He just likes the idea of being able to make everybody scared for a day. And I'm like, it's guaranteed that it's not going to happen because he said that. If he was going to do that, he would have just done it. He wouldn't have said something beforehand. That probably means that he lost something, because that's his way of like getting back at losing something, is by terrorizing everybody emotionally for a day. And that's what happened. They eventually said that they made him agree to a peace treaty. And that was his reaction to that. He didn't want there to be a peace treaty. And so he made everybody terrified that he was going to kill everybody for a day. That's what people like that do. So that's what this woman was doing. It's just that she's a young woman. And so for some reason that makes people talk about it the way that they are. And so I'm just scared every time I see one of these teenage kids make videos talking about this. Like, I understand why they want to. This is them like processing a traumatic event that's continuing to happen in their lives. they should be able to like talk about it, but the internet is going to turn against them. They turn against everybody.
Well,
like they're going to.
A situation like that is so much different when you're going through it, because I think I've told this story on the pod before, that there was someone who was 18 going out with our science teacher in high school, at the very end of high school, and all of us thought she was the villain. Like, I can't tell you a single person that I talked to that was like, Mr. D is kind of a creep. Nope, that was never the conversation. And so, like, part of the reason I think he disappeared off of Facebook for all of us is because he realized we were all getting to the age where nobody thought he was the good guy in that situation anymore.
Oh, the next one I have is Elliot and Jace from Teen Mom. That you told me that Elliot is one of the kids, like little kids that was like born on the show, and that somebody outed him as being gay by posting pictures of him going to prom with a boy. And it's the whole thing of like they had to like search to find that, because he probably posted it somewhere privately thinking that nobody would see it and stuff. And then Jace is a whole thing. we have a whole like full video about that situation, but every aspect of his life has just been talked about online to the point that it's like a part of his abuse cycle, honestly, is what people online are saying about him, because his mom gets mad that the people online don't like her, and she wreaks havoc in his actual life to try to get the internet to like her. And so that alone should make people like just stop. Like, and it's I don't know how people don't notice that that's happening, because she's pretty obvious from the small things that I've seen. It's very obvious that she like is desperate for people to like her. And that's like the whole thing with her this whole time, is that people liked her mom more than her. And she's just been like putting this kid through like emotional, just horrible abuse ever since then, because that's true. Like, that's not his fault. Like, maybe just like stop getting on Twitter. I don't know.
I mean, and also to give a quick update on that, Janelle's co-parenting with David now includes her wearing her wedding ring. He's been seen in the shadows of, like, anytime she posts on her stories, people are like, I can see David's shadow literally right there. They've gone to a nightclub. Tell me how you're co-parenting in a nightclub in Vegas. Like,
you're equally, they're like sharing being neglectful by being in a nightclub together while their children are at home, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing that is like terrifying me, where I keep looking at that horrible website that posts all these things about reality show people, is that she says that she put Jace in a holistic center, and I'm like, I think she put him in a trouble teen camp.
A wilderness camp, probably, even.
Yeah, they would call it a wilderness camp, but it's a trouble teen camp. I'm pretty sure that she probably put him into one like that, because those camps are, she mentioned that it had something to do with like money, like that she almost got like a brand deal to put him into one of these places or something. And the troubled teen camps, they're all about money. They just want parents. They don't let kids go home because they want their parents' money. It's all just, that's the only motivator they have, is making as much money off of these scared parents as humanly possible. And that's why they just like stop them from talking to their kids, so that they won't find out what's really going on and they won't make as much money off of them. And so I'm like, I think that she put him in, because there are troubled teen camps. I just Googled it. There are troubled teen camps that they call themselves wilderness camps, but they're troubled teen camps that are like holistic, which basically means that they don't let the kids take medication. And they like say that they're going to teach them like yoga or how to like meditate, but they're not going to do that. They're going to make them camp outside in the wilderness and not let them shower for 2 weeks at a time. And all the other things that those places do. Okay. And then, the next thing with this is the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives show. Taylor, Frankie, Paul that whole situation. Like, everyone decided that she was in the wrong. And then now that evidence of Dakota being very abusive has come out, where there's text messages from him that, and these, I just have to make this statement because people are just so bad at still figuring this stuff out. It's kind of like amazing to me how bad people are at this stuff. They're just so easy to like make people go one way or another, I guess. And that in these text messages, she's asking to talk to him after he smashed her face on his dashboard, because she's talking about how she thinks her like nose is broken and it's bleeding, but she can't go to the hospital because her kids are at home. And she's like, I'll just wait until tomorrow to like go to the doctor or whatever. And then she's asking to talk to him, and he interprets that as wanting to have sex with him, where he's like, oh, I thought we were having sex. And she's like, the fuck? What? Like, I wanted to talk to you. And he's like, oh, well, if he thought that that's what talking meant, was that they were going to have sex again. And he said that she was abusing him.
Yeah.
That's what he considers abuse. And I was like, oh, okay, that's nice to be like super gigantically sure that we are definitely right about him. And he also tried to make a photo that I've seen people laughing at, because he tried to post a picture or send it to the police or something, because the police were investigating this incident that happened at the end of February that everyone was talking about, that everyone just like assumed was her doing something to him. He said that she like hurt him, like hit him in front of their kid and like scratched him. The police were investigating it. The police were like, the scratches were done by him. Because from like the angle that they were from, it wasn't from like this way, it was from like the, and so they figured out that it was not ones done by another person, that it was done by, they're pretty sure that he did it to himself. And so they were asking him for like, do you have any evidence to show that you weren't the instigator in this situation? And he sent them a picture of him very obviously put like ketchup or food of some kind on his face to try to make it look like his nose was bleeding. But like, it was very obvious that it was not real. Like, it didn't look real. Like, you can tell that it was like this is like how fake it looked. I was just like scrolling TikTok and that picture showed up and I started laughing. Because it was just so obvious that it wasn't anything actually real, and absolutely nobody like online believed that. It's just that he's very successfully made people just not care about Taylor Frankie Paul anymore by sending that video out to TMZ, that like no one's really acknowledging it, that he smashed her head into a dashboard in his car, and when he forced her to drive away from their house when her kids were at home sleeping. And that even the police in frickin' Utah, there is nowhere on this planet that is more misogynistic than Utah. And even the police in Utah realized that he was the instigator and that she didn't do anything. Do you know how good of a case you have to have for them to actually believe that? Like, Mormonism is so misogynistic. Utah is like another planet when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Police force is mostly Mormon in Utah.
Yeah, like the Mormon church literally runs everything in that entire state. Everything. It's ridiculous how much influence they have over every single facet of their lives. And then the other thing from that show, actually, that was a good instance of this sort of thing happening, is Whitney's husband, Connor. After the first season aired, Whitney was like the villain because she didn't like Taylor, basically. And after the first season aired, people didn't like her because she was playing like the villain in like the storyline they were doing that season. And so somebody found her husband on like Hinge or Grindr, or maybe both, having like accounts on those websites or apps that looked like it was like somewhat active. And so then everybody started making all of these videos like making fun of Whitney for her husband cheating on her, which is already a ridiculous thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's absurd to be doing that. And they didn't say anything about any of that stuff. They stayed married. And as the seasons went on, every season that's been on, people have liked Whitney and Connor much more as the seasons go on. But the thing that really like made it definitive is, I think after the second season, they did you know how reality shows do those like reunion specials where they talk about things? They did one of those, and at that event, Connor told everybody that he was sexually abused as a child and by somebody, and I forget who it was, but those accounts that he had on like Hinge and especially Grindr was him basically doing self-harm to himself, where he was like doing self-destructive things, and he was like looking at, especially on Grindr, looking at men that was reminding him of the person that abused him. That's honestly something that a lot of us do, especially when we're like getting to the point where we want to actually deal with it or have to. We start doing stupid, like self-destructive things like that to like almost not blame ourselves, but like punish ourselves in this weird way. Especially when you get to the phase where you become absolutely obsessed with remembering what happened, because none of the memories are like super clear. They all feel like a dream. You start doing things like that to try to like trigger yourself on purpose so that you'll remember more of what happened or something, which is not at all how that works. That's not how, but you like feel like you need to do these things, and you just like are driving yourself insane, wondering if what you remembered is real or not. And so I'm sure he was doing that, but he was very like brave, honestly. And the other people on the show didn't even know that happened. Whitney was the only one who knew about any of that before he said something. One of the other girls on the show also then like told everybody that she also was sexually abused as a kid, because it's Mormonism. Of course they are. And but it was just the idea that like the internet was like thinking that Connor was a bad husband and he was cheating on his wife, and was like talking shit about Whitney not being a good mom and all these like misogynistic things because her husband was like cheating on her. And oh, isn't it pathetic that they like stayed married, when actuality he was working through being sexually abused as a child, and she like hung in there with him and like supported him the entire time, which is why the relationship is so healthy, that he's being like the stay-at-home dad. And he loves it. Like he yells at the other dads on the show who are like hung up on the fact that their wife makes more money than him. He doesn't care. He's literally on the show. He does magic tricks for fun. And I'm like, yeah, this is like a child sex abuse victim's dream. You get to do something your inner child would want to do, but you never got to do because your spouse makes so much money that you don't have to work. Like, yeah, this is great. This is like perfect. He gets to just engage with his inner child and be a good dad and take care of their kids and like yell at people who try to make his wife feel bad for, you know, actually doing what she was always wanted to do, but Mormonism told her she wasn't allowed to do it. But it's just like people, it's weird to blame her for that anyway, even if he was cheating on her. But it made me feel really good that it ended up being that he was sexually abused as a child, and just made everyone who did that feel really bad about themselves. Because you should feel bad. You should feel bad about doing that. That's like some of the most misogynistic stuff you can do, is to try to like say these things about her and her marriage when you don't know what's going on in people's lives. That's a really weird thing to do. Okay. Where am I? Oh yeah. These are the things that you told me about that a Nicki Minaj stan.
Yeah.
That doxed somebody and then like admitted freely to doing it on like one of those Twitter things where they like all talk in like a group chat on Twitter where there's like audio.
Yeah, it's like a voice chat thing.
Yeah. I forget what that's called, but she just admitted on there and was like rambling about it for like a half hour about how she did it. And she's like, I wasn't the one who found his stuff initially. And it's like, but you posted about it again. And then was like bragging about how you were the one that did it. She got kicked out of nursing school. And so even though she was being god awful and was doxing somebody who was just pointing out the fact that Nicki Minaj is married to a predator. That's what all the person did who they were attacking like that.
Well, it takes with her fans sometimes.
Yeah, but still, like, finding out where she goes to school and sending the school so many emails and stuff that they kick her out. I don't really think that really does anything, because the person that was doxxed was still doxxed. And so, like, what did that exactly prove? I don't think that somebody should get kicked out of nursing school if they spent all those years trying to do it because they're being a menace online. Like, and I know that whenever things like this happen, people try to, like, moralize this stuff of, like, well, if you're going to be in a career where you're trying to heal people, you need to shut up.
Yeah, part of it is the fandom culture, and we've talked about how certain cultures around this kind of stuff can build it up. Nicki is somebody who praises fans who do stuff like this.
Yeah, and it's also a thing of, like, the internet just tries to, like, justify when they've done something that they know is wrong. And so that was just people, like, grasping at straws to try to find any reason to justify doing that. I'm like, you just wanted to be vindictive. I get it. You're mad that you doxed somebody. You wanted to get back at her. Like, stop pretending like you care about, like, you think that she would be a bad nurse or something because she was a stan of Nicki Minaj when she was, like, 20. She wouldn't be bad at her job because of something. If that was true, nobody would do anything well in the history of time, because no one does stupid stuff when you're that age. We're just lucky, at least I'm lucky, that when I was that age, there was no social media.
Yeah, having her go through an extra ethics course or maybe, like, take counseling or something, an equally good solution the school could have done. And they could have provided that service since they're a nursing school, probably. But
yeah, or just, like, the police in her area or something, making her take a bunch of classes on doxing and, like, how serious a crime like that is, and, like, the long-term effects that can have on a person. The other thing similar to that is when the same people, the Nicki Minaj fans, dox Meg Thee Stallion's mom's grave. That sounds like a weird sentence to say, but it happened. They, like, posted where her mom's grave was and told people to show up to, like, mess it up. And so she had to, like, put security at her mom's grave.
yeah, that was a weird one. And this was during Nicki and Megan had a really, really big beef where they were trading diss tracks. I remember Nicki's was called Bigfoot. I can't remember. Meg's wasn't even like a diss track just on Nicki. She just said a line that had to do with Nicki being surrounded.
I will say that line that Meg Thee Stallion said was, like, the most perfect, like, diss track line in the history of time.
These hoes don't be mad at Megan. These hoes mad at Megan's law. I don't really know what the problem is, but I guarantee y'all don't want me to start. Bitch.
Because the line that she said was, Megan's law is a law that is what helped create, like, the sex crime registry. And there was a line in the song where she said, "Don't call me Meg, call me, like, Megan's law." And it went along with, like, the rhyming and everything in the song, and was, like, exactly, and I was like, oh my God. And so people looked up what Megan's law was, and when they saw that that's what it was, and she was saying that because Nicki Minaj's husband is on the sex registry for raping a somebody. And so that was, like, the most amazing, like, diss track line in the hit. Like, you don't have a way to top something that well written. I wonder what those people are doing now that she's a MAGA puppet.
Yeah.
The one that I forgot about was that Kendra person and her psychiatrist.
The woman who did the, like, 60 million part series, that she fell in love with her psychiatrist and that she's basically an AI psychosis.
Yeah, she was, like, she had a name for ChatGPT and everything. That's all I knew.
Okay, so there actually is one called Claude, but I can't remember what she called her ChatGPT.
I don't want to know, honestly. I tried so hard to not know as much as I possibly could about that situation. Saying that he was, like, attractive or something. But I'm so proud that I, like, would block people fast enough that I never actually saw his face.
Yeah,
I know of anyway.
Saw his face at some point, or at least who people were speculating it was.
Yeah.
And
I know from I know from like the videos that Abby person was derangedly making that people were going to his website and like looking up what kind of psychiatrist he was and like what he specialized in. And I was just like, this is a disaster. A psychiatrist that specializes in people that are in some sort of state of psychosis where they're like hallucinating an entire other life that isn't happening in that sort of way. To specialize in something like that, they're the least people that need attention from strangers online. Their clients need to be protected. Their clients need to be able to still be anonymous when that's going on. And that would be something that would scare anybody away with like any sort of serious mental health problems. No one wants to get involved in something like that. And it's hard enough to trust the people that you see just normally. When you have abuse stuff going on, I would drop somebody immediately if there is all these people making videos about them online. Just out of the, like, because I wouldn't be able to stop the voice in my head that would tell me that the people that are making videos about them are actually right. It would just be like too much. I would just need to start over new with somebody else. And then the last thing I have in here is about school shooting victims, particularly the Stoneman Douglas shooting, which is the one that happened in Florida. A lot of the kids that were in that shooting used the social media and went on like CNN Live and started a nonprofit. They did the March for Our Lives marches every year still, I'm pretty sure. And at least one of them is a member of like, two of them actually are members of Congress. And David Hogg is one of the big name people from that group of kids, where he started an organization that is like quite literally the purpose of his organization now is to get rid of Democrats who won't do anything about gun violence and replace them with people that will. Like, that's like that's what he's doing now with the newest organization that he's doing, is just getting rid of. He literally says in videos, I'm working to get rid of Democrats that don't do anything anymore and replacing them with somebody else. And like, that's the only way he's learned how anything will ever change, because the people that are still in there won't do anything. But him especially, he was stalked and harassed by Marjorie Taylor Greene. There's videos of her like literally yelling at him while following him when he's walking down the sidewalk when they were in Washington D.C. for their first like March for Our Lives march. He was like 16 when that happened, and this full-ass adult is not only following him down the street and would not leave him alone, but is yelling at him that his school shooting never happened.
Oh no,
like,
not with those.
That is what she is saying to him in all those videos, was that the school shooting was a conspiracy and never happened because of people like Alex Jones saying that about yeah. And every shooting after that, people would just start saying that none of them actually happened. Can you imagine being harassed and like that and stalked by somebody who is telling you that this super traumatic event never happened? When it did, like 15 or so of their classmates are dead.
Yeah.
Because this happened, and like he was swatted, like David. Swatting is when somebody calls the police and tells the police that there's like some horrible crime happening at somebody's house. And so the police, like full on like SWAT team shows up to somebody's house and like knocks down their door and like runs into their house expecting there to be like somebody holding them hostage with a gun or something. People somehow found out his family's home that he still lived in because he was still in high school. And they called a SWAT team, and the SWAT team in Florida showed up at his house. And it took a while to convince them that nothing was actually going on, and that somebody somehow online found his address and would just like do that sometimes, where they had to move. And it's like, just to like reiterate that the thing that he did wrong was survive a school shooting.
Yeah. And that's like, people who survive those things will sometimes have people like send them crime scene photos and stuff too.
Yeah.
Like that's
Or
what we didn't talk about specifically too much, but it happens, right?
and so I think that it's really hypocritical that people say that they're invading people's privacy and doxing them or stalking them or doing all these things to them because they want to like protect them from somebody that's trying to hurt them, or they're trying to do this or trying to do that. Like I sent you a TikTok the other day of Tana Mojo telling a story about how when she was that when she was at Coachella, she got to like the house and the whatever company she used to like rent the house, somebody it would have to be somebody who like worked for them or something, because they knew like the code to get into the place that she was staying in, got like put the digits of her code in the house, and then like went in there and like left a bunch of stuff for her, which would be like things that they thought she would like. But that's like a scary thing that's terrifying anyway, that they like went into her house when nobody was there. Like, how did they even know she was staying there? And then how did they know how to get into the house once they found out she was staying there? But it's she made the good point, which is true, is that like sometimes parasocial things like that is how a stalker starts. That's how they start a lot of the time when they do start, and you don't know when they're starting. They just offer to give you like presents or whatever, and then you don't realize until later on that it's become like a scary thing. And so people like that, people showed up at her, somehow found out where she was staying in Coachella, and like left gifts for her. They like left her cards with their like Instagram handles on it. Like they weren't trying to hide who they were. They like thought that she would like want to reach out to them and be friends or something. And it's just like that idea that they did all of that to try, thinking that they could be friends with her when she's a stranger. They don't know her, and she definitely doesn't know them.
I'm so curious to see what other info she gives us during the podcast with Trish, because so the way it happened is there's the two big house sharing apps, which are Vrbo and Airbnb. She went through Vrbo, but a lot of these apps now are overrun with like real estate companies that have multiple properties. And so it was Vrbo, but the property was owned by Helios, which turns out to be a small real estate company. And she was talking about how, like, there's 11 people at that company. Like, we can figure this out. Come on. Yeah. But nobody's helping her at either company, neither Vrbo or Helios right now.
Yeah, and my favorite part of that story was when she started talking about how she could, like, hear them, because they didn't realize that they could hear her when they were, some phone lines, especially at, like, small offices like that. There was one of the jobs I worked at a small attorney's office. When we put somebody on hold, we could hear them. We could hear what they were saying when they were on hold. So we would like hear them like cussing us out, basically, and like be known why they were upset with us before we would like get back on the phone. And so it was a situation like that where she could hear them freaking out and be like, who is this girl? And then seeing that she has like almost 6 million followers on Instagram. And they were like, oh, we are so fucked. Like, what? Somebody with like that many followers, somebody just like broke into their house that we rented her and like somehow knew like her code to get in and everything. Yeah. She's going to eventually, I'm sure, get them to give her the information. Because I'm sure she will, but that just alone is just like extremely parasocial and just like scary.
Yeah.
That they even thought that if they did something like that, like that she would want to be friends with them or something afterwards, where they like left her their information for her to find them.
Yeah. She like pointed out they thought they would be less threatening because it seems to be two girls. And she's like, no, this is creepy. And I'm going to go to the highest degree anytime someone does this, because like, police don't take you seriously unless you do. So
yeah. And like women are scary too. Like that one person, Club Chalamet on Twitter, is a horrible stalker of Timothy Chalamet. But I think she's like switched who she's doing now to one of the actors from the Heated Rivalry show, which is scary. But people like know that she's a crazy stalker. That's literally what she's known for being a crazy stalker. But because she's like an older woman, people just like don't see her as threatening. when he very openly is like stalking these celebrities in a really scary way. I don't know. But anyway, that was a really long list. And that's just the things that I remembered because it happens so often. And it's this weird thing that like there are no long-term consequences to anything